sometimes I get into like metaphysical weeds of what's, what's going on, what's really going on here.
You and me both.
And yeah, and I'm like, hold on, how does it actually relate to my life? And so I wonder, coming back, like, how does this kind of metaphysical conversation start to land tangibly back into showing up in a better way in relationships and showing up in a better way in your work and
Yeah.
having greater ease in your life.
Yeah. So I think it comes back to um, starting from a place of self-discovery.
Mm,
It's there. I'm not aware of a degree program in college that's basically, like, okay, so here's your BS in self-discovery. um,
yeah.
we're taught domain expertise, we're taught process skills, systems, but there's very little attention given to actually self-discovery and self-awareness, which is funny to me because how can you make discerning decisions as an adult if you actually don't understand why you're saying yes or no to something, and whether it aligns well with the fiber of your being or horribly, you know so a lot of my focus has been on, like, okay, so let's deepen into that process of self-discovery. So I think, like, a lot of what we're talking about is um to do the inner work, um and not even instead of, but to do the inner work alongside of whatever outer exploration you're doing. So if you're in a moment where you're sort of in reimagining, which so many people are, that according to a whole bunch of different studies right now, anywhere from 25 to 50% of the people are quitting their jobs.
Yeah.
Many of them without actually knowing what they're doing next. Um, and people are like, well, why is this happening now? And I'm like, how could you not think this would be happening now? And people are like, well, like, there's this all everyone's pointing to these new circumstances that are, like, supposedly behind this massive desire to do something different. And I'm thinking to myself, well, sure, those things matter, like working from home, changing the workflow, the circumstance, the environment, and all these different things. But fundamentally, underneath that, there has been a level of existential discontent and borderline burnout that is not new. We've been living in the gray for a lot of years. And you see it in all of the data long before the last year and a half, engagement levels, a sense of purpose, a sense of excitement, a sense of energy, a sense of performance in organizations. The numbers have been disastrous for decades, and even the last 5 years where there's been some improvement, we're talking about like 1 to 2% improvement. And people are like, well, this is huge, the numbers are going up. It's like, no, it's actually awful. Yes, there's a very slight improvement. So when you take that, when you take a generational baseline of profound existential discontent, and then you rock the circumstances just enough so that it's sort of like you hit a tipping point, then all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, so that bargain that I probably made when I was 21 or 22 about what I was going to say yes to and what I was okay sacrificing. Maybe I didn't even make it consciously. I just stepped into a job and then just put my head down and went. Well, I'm now re-examining that bargain. And I'm re-examining for the first time in my life the way that this thing that I've been doing for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years is making me feel, what it's giving me beyond a paycheck, which matters, but it's not everything. Um, and what I'm realizing is I don't want this bargain to define the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years of my life, you know, because I don't
Yeah.
want to feel this way. And this moment has rocked people to the core, but it's not new. It's just layered um, enough pressure onto, a pot that was already about to just boil over, that everybody's
Yeah.
asking the big existential questions right now. And I think the starting point is, okay, so let's actually kind of like figure out, maybe the first time, what makes me come alive. Like, what legitimately, what beyond the job and the role and the title and the industry and the devotion, fundamentally, what type of effort, what type of work gives me that feeling that I really want to feel. I think we're in that moment right now. So, like, a lot of the work that I've been doing around the Sparketypes and the book is really deepening into that question. It's the fundamental question: what should I do with my life? And when most of us ask that, we're asking it in the context of work, even though we don't realize that that's what we're asking. Um, and I think this is a moment where if we can understand what are the deeper drivers of effort that give us that feeling of coming alive, and then look at the universe of possibilities and opportunities now. And that may be, by the way, just reimagining the work that you're doing so that it's much better aligned with
Yeah.
who you now know yourself to be. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to blow things up and start over. In fact, I think that's generally the worst first step for most people.
Yeah.
But I think it's a moment that we're all being invited to do the deeper work.
You have a really beautiful